Right now, some people are calling for you to focus on persuading the Republicans in Congress. They could stop this right now. Only they have the power to do anything. So remain peaceful, trust your Democratic leadership, and persuade the Republicans to do the right thing, to remember who we are as Americans, to trust that the strength of our moral arguments will bend our arc towards justice. It's not just naive, it's absurd, and it's a rejection of our resistance history. So maybe instead of modern politics, let's let our past do some talking. Hey folks, I'm Tad Sturmer. I'm a scholar of resistance history and the American Revolution at the University of Southern Denmark and Johns Hopkins, and the author of A Resistance History of the United States. There's a nasty cocktail of American exceptionalism being served to you right now, and it goes like this. America is so special, so unique, so gifted by its own destiny that we can do what no other country can do. You can alter the course of a tyrannical government entirely through peaceful means, by the weight of peaceful persuasion, by just making sure that our voices are heard more loudly. Maybe they're just not paying attention. But if they do pay attention, the strength of our arguments will certainly prevail. Note, I did not say nonviolent. Peaceful and nonviolent are not the same things. Focus, people. But conversely, and bizarrely, that our American government is the best form of government ever, where the people have their voice, but where the winner takes all and the majority holds all the power. The minority is helpless against that authority. Every election is a zero-sum game of power, and if you push against that power, use any leverage, you run the risk of civil war, of citizens gunned down in the streets. No, if you disagree, you must ask politely for those in power to give you a crumb. Just some training for ICE agents, please. That's how American politics works. You combine all that foolishness and you get a poisonous brew for this moment. The minority party can do nothing. It is weak and powerless. So what can you do? Focus all your persuasive energy on those with all the power, so the better angels of their nature will wake up and remember who they are, Americans. So don't push back, persuade. And don't focus any attention on Democrats. If they tried something, they'd lose. Only the Republicans matter. They have all the power. Think what that argument is doing. Think about the work that's doing. An authoritarian party assumes it has all the power to do whatever it wants and that the opposition can do nothing to stop it. That they can walk out onto the street, whether it's Fifth Avenue in New York or 26th and Nicollet in Minneapolis, and shoot someone and you can do nothing about it. And your narrative is they're right? Okay, now I'm a historian, not a politician, not a commentator, and that's what Substack tells me. I'm in history, not politics. So what does history tell us? Not my opinions, our past. Then none of that's true. Now, world history tells us that tyrants have never been persuaded or protested out of power, ever. Not once. They don't stop. They're stopped or they run out of energy on their own. Don't argue with me, argue with folks like Hannah Arendt. It's as close to a historical truth as anything we've got. But we don't have to go to world history. We can just look at our own. But let's leave that to the side just for the moment and deal with the other foolishness. That the minority in American government is powerless. That if they tried to push back, they would not only lose, the costs would be catastrophic, even civil war. Peace is more important than ending the abuse. So let's just keep on persuading. Sure, there are casualties, but that's the price of freedom. Now that argument should be a familiar one to any historian of the United States. Preserving the Union, our stability, is more important than ending slavery, ending the abuse. So just accept the casualties, the body count. Keeping our peace is worth more than ending your suffering. What would you do? Risk civil war? We've been here before, more times than we can count, fighting the same fight against the same argument. One of the first times, one of the biggest times, an abusive authority wanted to consolidate its power. The United States could be great, they said, a power on the world stage, an engine of wealth. But the problem? Our government was just too weak. It couldn't fight enemies that were on the inside. America was under threat from within, about to be toppled at any moment by gangs of lawless mobs. So they needed more power to stop them and make America great. All that was needed was law and order, a firm hand, a new government that collected power and put it in their hands. But the opposition said, that's a lie. The threat's not real. They're just making it up to justify the power grab. And since when was America about power and wealth? We thought it was about liberty and rights. The response? We need stability. We need peace. Oppose us, and America will dissolve into civil war. Your liberty and rights will be nothing if we're not first strong. So what did the opposition do? They cave? No, they fought. They used all the leverage they had. What did they care about? What did they want? Well, first, they wanted a new version of that federal government, one not shoved down their throats, not imposed on them. They could do better if more voices were involved, including people who saw other things in what America could mean beyond power in the world stage and wealth for a few at home. And they wanted protections for rights. That's what the American Revolution was supposed to have been about. At least their version of the American Revolution was about that. But the nationalists, we call them Federalists, doubled down on the fear-mongering. The mob is at the gates, ready to take over. We can't wait. We need law and order now. America is about to collapse. Can't you see it? So they moved fast. First, they operated in secret, keeping their plan for a government away from people before they were ready to launch it. And then they moved quickly to implement it. They were so fast and so effective that the opposition, we call them Anti-Federalists, but they didn't use that term, was caught. They didn't yet have their arguments or their organization. They had to catch up fast. But the Federalists had a massive head start, lots of organization, and a drive for more power. So what did the Anti-Federalists do? Give up? See they would likely lose and then stop and hope that they could change things later? No, they forced the fight. They pushed for everything. A new constitutional convention, a new version of that government. Even as the Federalist juggernaut rolled over state after state, the Anti-Federalists began to find their voice, find their message. So was it too late for them when they got to Virginia and enough states had already ratified the Constitution for it to go into effect? Was the fight over? No, you force the fight. You still have leverage. Virginia was the largest state with the biggest economy. The new government really couldn't function without it, even if on paper it might try to function without Virginia. And more to the point, it was home to the main movers of the new government, like James Madison and George Washington. You could hit them where it hurts, in their egos. One of the best things about their new government to them was that they would run it. Keep Virginia out, then where does that leave them? On the outside looking in. So the Anti-Federalists worked on that and kept pushing. Get whatever you can, make them earn it, make them concede, nothing's off the table. And if they can't get everything, then enough to matter. Don't start small and settle for less. Start by demanding everything and make them pay a price for what they get out of it. And what did the opposition get? The Bill of Rights. Those freedoms that for many define what it means to be an American. Yeah, that thing. Were they a gift of Madison's genius or Hamilton's vision? Hell no. They both opposed them, fought tooth and nail against them. Those American values weren't their American values. They even argued that their America would be greater without them. Really. The Anti-Federalists forced the fight and earned the Bill of Rights, a product of American resistance, not American reform, and not American restraint. So when you hear people today say, plead with Republicans to reform, maybe you should take a page out of our resistance history and demand that Democrats force the fight, call the bluff. Don't accept the body count as the regrettable cost of a stability that only serves to embolden further abuse. Senate Democrats have told you that they know what they can do. They remembered the protections built into our system, the rights of the minority against the tyranny of the majority. Remember all that? They told you they know their leverage. They can stop ICE and the rest of the authoritarian parade by shutting off their funds. It doesn't even take every Democrat, just enough, 41 votes, to send the Republicans to the table. Ro Khanna has laid out just what they can and should do with that. The response of Senate Democrats? Nah, we can't do that. We just need reform, training, conditions, maybe even hearings. We can't risk conflict. Yes, this government is abusive. My gosh, they're fascists. We can call them that now. Thanks, Atlantic. But we can't really do anything about that. Start small, and maybe we'll get less. That makes the Republicans just as powerful as they say they are. But of course they're not. The congressional Democrats need the winner-takes-all language to center all attention on winning in November. Forget about what we're losing today. So when people tell you things like, whatever you would do in the 1930s in Germany is what you're doing now, tell them that you don't need to go somewhere else for lessons. We have plenty of our own. The New England Patriots of the American Revolution, the Anti-Federalists, the Black resistance, and after far too much time, the white resistance to the First Republic, the radical Republicans who established our democracy. 1775, 1788, 1789 to 1860, 1866. What would you have done then? Are you a loyalist, saying the British Constitution is great and just needs reform and resistance will do nothing but create conflict? Are you a Federalist, saying the U.S. Constitution is great and just needs reform and resistance will do nothing but create conflict? Are you an ally of the enslavers, like Daniel Webster and the Loomwig, saying, well, the U.S. Constitution is great and resistance will do nothing but create conflict? Or are you a liberal Republican, really, a historical term, saying the U.S. Constitution is great and needs no more reform and further resistance will do nothing but create more conflict? Sense a theme here? Either way, that's what you're doing now. So the question is not really whether you're opposing Nazi Germany. Keep your head in this fight, in our context. Are you a loyalist or are you a patriot? Are the people you're listening to loyalists, forever committed to reform, to maintaining the establishment, or patriots who see the need for change and are willing to do what it takes to get it? You do you. I'm just a historian. I can only tell you what worked and what didn't and why. That's why those letters are after my last name. But whatever you do, base it on the facts. Base it on what people really did, not some magical thinking about a country that never existed. Or you can bet your life on the belief that America is exceptional, is magical, will be the first country in history that persuaded abusive authority to end the abuse through the sheer strength of their very special moral superiority. That's all I got today, folks. Allons-y.